Good afternoon to everybody. We are, I think, at the last session of the day, so thank you for coming here. So today we are talking about unlocking the future of industrial electrification. So the first thing is, if we look at Australia, how much is the electricity consumption? Is around 20-21%, and is largely driven by the industrial sector. And there is a long runaway and opportunity to increase the consumption of electricity, given the fact that today in the country, the majority of the industrial processes are powered by fossil fuel. What is holding back Australia from electrifying more? What is propelling the more electrification in the country? And how the grid, the policies, the technologies can play a critical role in making the electrification at speed in the country. So during the next 25 minutes, we will dive into the challenges and choices we have to innovate our industry. We will explore how electrifying processes can be a catalyst of a sustainable and profitable growth. Repeating, I'm Gianfranco Monzini. I'm leading the global electrification consulting practice at Schneider Electric. With my organization, we assist hundreds of clients around the globe to electrify with confidence. Today with me, I have Jarrod. He is the CEO of A2EP, and Jarrod is bringing to us a deep expertise of the industrial landscape in Australia. And A2EP is also playing a pivotal role in accelerating efficiency and sustainability within the industry. So Jarrod, I'll let you introduce yourself. Thank you again for coming. It's really an honor to have you here today.
Pleasure to be here, Gianfranco. And for those of you who don't know the Alliance, there's Australian Alliance for Energy Productivity. I've been around for about 14, 15 years. Member funded, and we have this lovely cross section of members, which means we're not sort of owned by any one technology or concept. Our members just say, hey, help us promote good energy productivity. And over the last 5 years, we've been doing much more about industrial electrification and helping industry get off gas and look for renewable heating solutions. And whilst we do a lot in heat pumps, if you Google heat pump, and we'll probably come up there for industrial heat pump, we only really sort of promoting that a bit more than others because that's where a lot of the gains are, and economics are good there for the moment. But yeah, lots and lots of studies and lots of interviews around Australia, so a very good handle of where and how people are using energy in that industrial space.
Yeah, and so these drive me to the first question, which is, electrification is complex. It's not an easy task. It's in a way easier to say than to execute. But if I'm looking at what is happening worldwide, we are seeing really an acceleration on that. An acceleration that is driven by, is working? Yeah. It's driven by digitalization, is driven by advancement in technologies like heat pumps, battery storage, thermal storage, and is also driven by policy initiatives. If we look at US, let's not consider the current context, but IRA is definitely an incentive, given incentives to electrify more. And Europe just released the CID. Where do we stand in Australia? How do you see the shift to a more electrified industries? And what do you think are the short-term actions or low-hanging fruits that industrial leaders, they need to look, or who is operating the plant needs to look in order to accelerate their electrification?
So if we look at where Australia is on a global scale, definitely well behind where Europe and Japan, they seem to be leading a fair bit. But we're coming off this by a place of very cheap gas and have had for many years. But those days are certainly over. They've been over for quite a few years. But our higher gas price has been historically linking to high electricity price. And when you want to electrify, that ratio of gas to electricity price is so crucial. I'd suggest we're coming out of that. With all the batteries coming online, I think we might see a little bit more of a decoupling of our gas price to electricity, and we'll start seeing that gap looking just really good for electrification. Now, in terms of where Australia needs to be strategically for this, I think this is about saving jobs and saving our industry. If we look at gas running out in Victoria and having to import there, same with in New South Wales, we've got the LNG port terminal, import terminal at Port Kembla. Yeah, this is going to be driving up our gas prices, which is going to see more and more industries really struggling. So I think this is a strategic imperative that we help industry get off gas and electrify. The conditions are right. The grid is decarbonising very quickly. It's already positive today. When you install a heat pump, you're removing emissions straight away. And within about 2 or 3 years, it's going to start looking very good for direct electrification solutions as well. We can maybe explore those a bit later. In terms of, and that sort of feeds into the low-hanging fruit there. So the low-hanging fruit right now is heat pumps, and that's, call it 100 degrees and below. They can operate up to 250 degrees, but you need special conditions for them to be very efficient with a high heat source there. But heat pumps right now, you've got a hot water demand for your site, industrial site, 60-degree washdown water or 65-degree CIP, 82-degree water for sterilisation. You're in a perfect spot to look at electrification. And that's food and beverage. Food and beverage is it here right now. They've often got the mandates, they've set themselves targets, so they want to do it, they're motivated, they have capital assigned, and the technology is available as well. So that's where we see the sweet spot happening right now.
Yeah, and honestly, it's pretty similar in what we are seeing in the rest of the world. I would say that in addition to the food and beverage, which is definitely one of the sectors that is transforming at the highest speed, we also see glass, for example, where we have furnaces with a lot of heat. We are seeing technologies that today are allowing in electrification. I think the other important point is when we look at electrifying the processes, there is sometimes like a misconcept of we have to do everything at once. And it's very important that we see at the electrification as a journey that we want to bring forward, and it can take a few years. And the other important aspect that we are seeing is today, the way we are managing and interacting with electricity is changing. There are a lot of new technologies that are helping in monetizing or capitalizing the electricity also on the demand side. We are talking about demand and energy resource system. We are talking a lot about advanced management system at grid level. We are talking a lot about on-site generation, virtual power plants. How do you see these changing and impacting the role of the electricity? We are seeing in countries that are allowing flexibility and demand response, changing the way operators are looking at the electricity from a cost of the P&L into a potential revenue, new revenue stream, and a way to incentivize the transformation. I know that Australia is quite advanced on that. Do you think what is missing to make it at scale? What we are missing to move from the commercial retails into mid-heavy industries?
Yeah, so you mentioned a lot of things there about the virtual power plants and I think you're looking at things like hybrid solutions, and this is such a huge change for how we used energy in the past, where it was essentially on tap. And now it's like, no, this has to be some sort of resource, and you've got to use energy when it's cheap and really adjust it. And that's going to be all about these hybrid solutions, especially for direct electrification. For direct electrification, to make it profitable with gas and economical, they need it delivered around about $60, $65 a megawatt hour. And this is now becoming more and more available, especially if you're HV connected. And so that in New South Wales, for instance, it's increasing by about 5% every year, the number of percentage of hours that are negative electricity prices. If you look at it right now, the electricity price, 50% of the time in New South Wales, 50% of the time, if you added a carbon, sort of a rough carbon sheet, carbon price in there, you're coming out better with using electricity versus gas right now. So I think there's things like that. We see South Australia is even more hours, Victoria even more hours. If you're able to utilise these very low cost electricity tariffs and hours, that's where it's going to come. The good news is that the networks are getting on board. So Essential Energy is trialling a time of use tariff. Ergon in Queensland is trialling a time of use tariff, such that in the middle of the day they're saying there's no tariff from us. Oh, and the wholesaler, you go to the wholesale market, there's no wholesale. So you are not just looking at free wholesale market for electricity, you're looking at zero from the networks as well. And so once people start switching onto that and say, well, how can I utilize this?
Yeah.
That's going to catalyze change.
And it makes the techno-commercial business case way more attractive and increase the appetite.
But we're not seeing this. This is where we get into the skills issue, Gianfranco, because we see a lot of studies being done out there and they're not considering this. You go to an energy consultant, you go to any sort of consultant, and there's just so few that are able to piece this together. This is a skill of understanding electricity markets. It's a skill of understanding the process and electrical engineering as well. And often they don't have on site those three capabilities, or they're not working together. And so we see this real missing piece is someone who can bring this together and advise to say, no, you operate this piece of equipment just like this, you're going to see an excellent return on investment.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I'm with my organization, we are working with, as I said, with hundreds of companies worldwide. And if I have to summarize which are the challenges, is all related to technology readiness, availability of power from the grid, from the operator. It's about capital cost, so what's the investment? Is about also how to integrate the additional electricity into the process. That's because a lot of majority of the process has been designed with a fossil fuel, powered by fossil fuel. So even the operators within the company, they are struggling really to understand this transformation and how to handle it. And where we are seeing a big help in boosting the confidence is to bring to them an holistic approach, is to bring to them an approach that is integrated and is looking at all the variables that are impacting the electrification. So the electrification is like an equation with multiple variables within it. One aspect where we are seeing a lot of support and help to our clients, in addition to what you said, which is having people that are bringing multiple competencies, is dynamic simulation software. So today, for example, we are able to work with food and beverage food company, as in maybe a chocolate producer, and we are able to show what is the process as it is today, and how the process is going to change when you are going to electrify, which are the impacts, and running multiple scenarios in order to optimize both the power and process. What do you think the role of softwares are playing in Australia? Do you think that the operators, they know that there are these softwares? And do you think that this is a way to boost the confidence?
Do they know it's available and what have you? Probably not. They're not really utilising this. Do they need this? I'd say yes. But let's go back to where the low-hanging fruit is. That's for food and beverage. A fair chunk of food and beverage is batch related. It's not just steady state chemical processes. And so when you're running different products and things through, that's on off, the plant is on off and going through so many different cycles and what have you. Sometimes you may have one product that requires a lot more cooling and a lot more heating. And unless you do the simulation on that, and when you're trying to do the renewable heating solution, which will have more thermal storage, maybe more cold storage, more hot storage, unless you're able to understand these different batches and all these different products, you're going to be a bit scared in pushing that button to make that change. So that ability of it to the digital twin, and I think you guys are leading the way there to say this is let's model the entire process and all the different batches. That's going to be a lot to get that confidence up. Otherwise, people are going to be, yeah, but what about this scenario? What about that scenario? You need to be able to model that and test it.
Yeah, especially when the power is becoming at the core of your processes, which was not like that in the past for many companies. So, and another aspect that is bringing a lot of interest within the industrial players is really about the availability of power. Is a constraint, is a bottleneck in many countries, and these across all the industries. It's like there is a competition on who is going to get the electron earlier than the others, and you have data centers that are competing for it. You have a big industrial players and on steel that are competing for it. How do you think the collaboration with utilities and with the operators can help on that? And where do you see Australia today in that journey?
So we certainly are early days there, but at least the networks, the poles and wires and infrastructure, they're starting to think about this. And so they're thinking maybe transmission getting to their distribution network is going to be a bottleneck. So thinking, how can we solve that? And we're very good at rooftop solar here. And there's something, if we can map out, okay, here's an industrial suburb in Sydney, say, Erskine Park is a good example out west here. You've got a bakery out there that could electrify. They're going to need a lot more electricity to get off gas. And all around them is warehouses, just warehouses that don't have any solar on the roof at all. But they're thinking, okay, how can we start mapping this out to say, well, we've got a big electrical load coming here, and we may have trouble getting the transmission in. So what can we do with solar in the area to get us by? And I think another important step, we've touched on a few times, is this not all or nothing. This has got to be a hybrid, stepwise. So maybe, and we're seeing a Coke is heading down this track right now. So they needed to expand their production. They were looking to at the limits of the gas boilers, and they weren't quite sure which way to go, but thought, okay, let's go for electrode boiler. So they're installing the electrode boiler. They're going to use that for peak conditions. And as electricity prices, when it's right and viable, they're going to start flipping that over to use less and less gas as well. So this is this sort of hybrid solution, getting in there saying, let's start with this and work it over and work to the limits of our electricity capacity and things as well.
And look, all what we are discussing, I think is extremely interesting. Now we are just scratching the surface, and obviously there is much more than that. Companies like yours are putting together people, are putting together industrial players. How do you think is important to keep working together to boost awareness, and also to give to the company leader the idea that it can be done in a sustainable way, and it can be done also in a profitable way? How you and your company are working on that?
So we really encourage this idea of like a radical collaboration. I'm taking that from someone else from WWF. It's the idea that we're all in this together. This is not the idea of using our decarbonisation technology. Let's say I'm a company and saying, well, I'm going to use that as pure IP and to hell with the rest of the industry. I'm going to use this to capitalise it. And I think not many are doing that at the moment, but that is a fear. It looks at the likes of Lion, Asahi. They're being very open with what they're doing. This is what we're doing. This is how we're doing, and they're sharing. And we just want to encourage that. We think that's the best way forward. On the other side of that, we see government is helping as well. So to help people get off gas, ARENA, the Australian Renewable Energy Agency, they've got $150 million of grants available where they'll cover 50% of your project. But it doesn't come for free. Out of that is going to be a knowledge sharing. So it's a mandatory knowledge sharing component where you've got to, give away all the IP, but you've got to say, we installed this electrode boiler, this heat pump, and this is the performance from it. This is the lessons learned, and this is the results and why what we do if we do the project again. So that knowledge sharing, and we're involved with most of those projects trying to get that out there. We think that will hopefully accelerate because we're still at the first generation of these projects. And for those that have worked in technology engineering for a while, it's usually about 3 generations, and that in engineering, that's like 10 years before you start getting this stuff right. And we sort of don't have that time. So I'm hopeful that we can at least skip a generation and we see next generation happening over the next 3 years. It's like, okay, we've brought the cost down and the economics are even better in that time.
Yeah, and I think that definitely the new generation will see a completely different world. I mean, what we are seeing with AI and so on is really boosting all the innovation at every level. And we do expect AI also to play a big role, not only as hungry consumer of power, but also enhancing productivity and the possibility to simulate even better what could happen at process level. You were mentioning ARENA early on, and we discussed today a little bit about incentives and so on. What's the role of, in your view, of the leadership of the government, and what do you think, or what would you expect from them to support more the country in the electrification journey and in this transformative journey?
Yeah, so we've got ARENA doing very well with the capital grants for electrification. That's great. We've got state governments, Vic in New South Wales, helping out with studies. And we just come off Victoria putting in a couple of $1 million into that. New South Wales is doing that next to try and get that part. The problem with the shortfall after this to really see industrial electrification take off is the cost per megawatt hour. And so that may improve if we improve the utilisation of the grid, but we would like to see incentives like we've got for hydrogen. Now, hydrogen has this $2 per kilo input tax credit available to new hydrogen producers. If that was put across bioenergy and electrification, you'd see those industries just take off. To put that in perspective, $2 per kilo input tax credit, if you just put it raw numbers across to electrification, that's $60 a megawatt hour. If I was going to take on a electrification project and I knew I was going to get a $60 per megawatt hour benefit, I mean, that would just completely change the economics. Same with bioenergy projects as well. So we would love to see just a nice level playing field. Yes, we're likely to need hydrogen in some way, but if we certainly can't put all our eggs in one basket here. We've got to be saying, well, yeah, let's support these other legs as well, bioenergy and electrification.
Yeah, and we are seeing a different approach from country to country worldwide. It's very difficult also for global company to understand exactly what they can do at global level because each country is a little bit different. And you were saying about Australia, where the hydrogen has been incentivized heavily, and maybe in Europe, other industries has been incentivized. So we really need to understand when we look at electrification at all, as I said, all the variables from incentives, technologies, availability of power, dynamic simulation software that are helping to understand how your processes are changing in the future, and so on. So it has been absolutely a pleasure and great to have you here. Do you have any last reflection for the audience? Anything you want to share based on your experience?
Yeah, so we're working on developing a tool to try and help with this transition because we still see that we need this better improvement understanding of how to do this, the how-to. How do you incorporate the procurement people and make sure you're looking at not just your previous electricity contract? That can be a major problem there. You've got to look forward. And so this is just a new way of thinking. And I think you've got to be working with companies like Schneider who understand how to bring those 3 things together. You guys may not be expert in every process, but you'll have process engineers and working with this. And maybe that's the leg you'll stand on the site for the process. But with your knowledge on electrification and procurement of energy, once you put those sort of 3 things together, it completely flips the equation. And every time I see a report that says, oh, heat pumps, it's going to be 15-year payback, I'm like, yep. I know what's gone wrong here. You haven't looked at electrification, partial electrification. You haven't looked at a hybrid solution. You haven't done this, haven't done that. And sure enough, you're stuck in the detail. That's it. And that's why I'm hopeful, and I want to see you guys and examples of that, showing this is the right way to electrify. So I'll try and hold you guys to account on that one if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And we start having a lot of examples. We help a lot of companies that now they can, with confidence, moving from the what to the how, which I think is the real thing. How I'm moving from the what to the how. Honestly, when you talk with C-level executive, everybody is into electrify. Everybody. I haven't seen any single leader in a company saying, I want to emit more. Not even one. Everybody has the same agenda. Everybody has the same goal. Decarbonize, however, decarbonize in a way that my production is not affected and it will not be too costly, in a way that has to also have a return of investment. And this is what we are seeing. We are seeing that the decarbonization, not only in Schneider experience, but also in what we are seeing around the globe, can drive profitable growth. What is the secret recipe? There are no standard ingredients. The ingredients are different. Every company is different. Every company has different processes. I can tell you, I'm working a lot personally with chocolate players. They have been growing inorganically in their life. I'm not naming brands, but major brands have been growing inorganically. And they are struggling a lot because the processes are all different. The plants are all different. So we have to understand that different ingredients can bring to the same solution, a sustainable and profitable growth. And as you said, there is no one that can do this in isolation. We have to work together and we can make it, again, in a profitable way. So thank you to all for being here. It's pretty late. We have been 2 days absorbing and receiving a lot of information. So I really would like to thank you for spending these 25 minutes with us. Thank you again, Jarrod. Amazing to have you here. We will keep the momentum and let's keep working together. Thank you to everybody. Thank you.